Well, thank you very much. Would you like me to include Doctor also? That's totally up to you.
No, not necessary. Just call me Kui. Okay. Mainly people just call me Kui, and that's because I'm not have an English name or something, so everyone just call me Kui. That's okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, looks like we're ready to go.
Hello, and welcome to the May 1st, 2021 Bitcoin Cash Network discussions. Today's topic is Smart BCH, an Ethereum virtual machine or EVM compatible sidechain for Bitcoin Cash. While Smart BCH doesn't require network consensus to be activated, we'd still like to take this opportunity to discuss the proposal and its implications. Joining me today are Wang Kui, lead developer at Smart BCH, Josh Ellithorpe, developer for BCHD and software engineer at Coinbase, Rosco, software engineer at GeneralProtocols and creator of CashScript and Truffle suite tooling, Mark Lamb, CEO at CoinFLEX, and Cindy Wong of Satoshi's Angels. So thank you all very much for joining me for this discussion. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having us.
So usually we start with the problem statement or use case of the proposal we're covering. And I think that will translate pretty well over to Smart BCH. So Mr. Wang, could I ask you to start telling us what, and without even going into what Smart BCH is, could you tell us what the goal for Smart BCH is as far as use cases are concerned? What is the use and the goal as far as uses are concerned?
Okay. Smart BCH's main purpose is to make it the porting process of existing DeFi applications to the BCH ecosystem much easier. You know that there are a lot of code and a lot of applications which have already been developed on the Ethereum, and they have already been porting to other chains such as BSC and Heiko and even Tron, and with little effort because they all support something like EVM and support the Web3 RPC. So we believe that since the EVM and Web3 ecosystem is so rich, why cannot borrow its strengths to enrich what we can do on the BCH ecosystem? Since you know this is open source, the cryptocurrency are all open source, and the open source communities can borrow ideas from each other. So I think it is quite okay to borrow these ideas from Ethereum to build some specific applications on BCH. And another thing is that, you know, the guys on Ethereum, they believe that the Ethereum must be run on small computers with nodes which are not so strong, and they actually limit the gas limit, and they go to sharding for high throughput instead of bigger blocks. I think there may be some need. I just guess. I guess there may be some people who need a bigger block version of EVM compatible applications. That is, we want to keep everything. I want to keep as much traffic as possible on the same chain, instead of put them to some roll up or another shard to have better interoperation between the DeFi smart contract. So I think maybe we can meet some of the market's needs, those needs is not fulfilled by the Ethereum itself. So maybe we can serve such applications and such demands. This is two sides. One is BCH need EVM, and maybe maybe the developers on EVM need a bigger block version of EVM. That's all.
Very good. Thanks for taking the time to explain that. So I'd like to open it up to everyone. I mean, maybe there isn't much more to add, but if there is, if anyone would like to comment specifically on the use cases or problems that something like Smart BCH or BCH or specifically Smart BCH allows for, and so we won't. If you can just maybe give a wave or go ahead and start talking, I think we're a small enough group that will work fine.
Yeah. So, I mean, I look at Smart BCH as just a really a solution for smart contract developers that don't want super high fees, but don't want to get into the more centralized environments that are able to give them a simulated environment that is lower fee. And so I look at things like Mainnet Smart Chain, and other people are testing their applications on these other networks because they don't want to have to pay high Ethereum fees. And they're very similar infrastructure. However, the liquidity on those coins is only for certain chains. You know, Binance Smart Chain is not traded on all exchanges. It doesn't have nearly the liquidity that a coin like BCH has. So all of a sudden you have a very easily to acquire high liquidity coin that also has this EVM capabilities. And we can be able to do that with very low fees. And then by backing it with proof of work and being able to elect the validators that way, you know that the people that are being elected as validators actually have the hardware to run a bigger block version of Ethereum that can do the throughput promises that Smart BCH is saying that they can do. This could be extremely useful. And I see it as a good alternative as long as the tooling is really similar.
Thanks very much. Would anyone like to add? All right, then maybe we'll move on to something that's pretty closely related, is the properties of a good solution or implementation. And so this use case or problem statement of, you know, maybe people wanting to do things like Ethereum, but with lower fees, or people wanting to use the Bitcoin Cash ecosystem to do smart contract type things. And I'll direct this towards Kui first, if you would. What makes... Oh, okay, sorry. What do you think makes a good implementation of something like that versus a bad one? And you can talk about, so what decisions have you made when making Smart BCH that you think will make it a success?
Okay, actually, I'm a technical guy. To make a chain successful, there are a lot of things more than technique. You know, you must have better community and better companies to support it. But from the technical view, I always been working on one thing, that is to enlarge the overall throughput through hardware-friendly design. You know that actually what I studied for my doctorate degree is very low-level computer architecture, and I know very low-level details of the computers, the CPU, how the CPU work, how the DRAM and how the SSD work. So I always look at the things from a low level, and I saw that there is a lot of opportunity to enlarge the throughput of the chains by optimizing the software to exploit more parallelism from the hardware. This is a totally different approach. I believe it is not tried by other designers. So Smart BCH is not a forked version of Go Ethereum. It is designed from the ground up. We borrow some code from other projects, but the overall architecture is brand new. And so we believe we can enlarge the throughput, which means we can keep low gas price even there are a lot of traffic. If we just copy the code from Go Ethereum or Parity and bridge it to the BCH as a sidechain, the throughput is still limited. When the traffic goes up, goes heavy, and is crowded, and the gas fee is sure to raise because the overall gas limit is so low. So what we do is to design a new architecture to run EVM and Web3, and which can utilize the hardware so good that we can keep the gas price low. Even the transaction is very busy, is very crowded. We can handle it. That is what my understanding. That is my understanding about the big block. Big block is we can make the block bigger in some brute force way, not some sharding or roll up or some tricky way. We just optimize the hardware and the software co-optimization and make the block bigger.
Yeah,
Thank you for that high-level overview. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I think it might be worth comparing scaling approaches and sort of what each project is thinking about doing, because I think there's Ethereum, there's BSC, Solana, and then something like Smart BCH, and then there's maybe everything else that's sort of similar to ETH. And when you think about Ethereum, they're like the nightclub that have realized they're super popular and now wants to raise the price. Because what they're doing with EIP 1559, which for those not familiar, basically that's going to take a lot of the gas that's spent on transaction fees and burn it instead of pay it to miners. This is really an approach of like, hey, we've been successful. Rather than focus on making it cheaper for people, why don't we just use these high fees that people are paying and pump ETH as a token? Which is great. I mean, it's great for the tokenomics of ETH, but it's bad for the ETH ecosystem, the ETH user base. And then if you think about BSC, it's going the route of Smart BCH, but without, it's trying to have, improvements to the scalability and low fees, but without any fundamental architectural, low-level, machine-level improvements. And so that's why BSC fees are now starting to hit the $+ range, which really, $1 transaction fee is higher than, imagine paying for a beer and then it's $1, for many types of DeFi applications, even they break down at this kind of range. And then you have approaches like Solana, which basically take the approach of, we're gonna completely do away with the promise of decentralization, and both BSC and Solana are very limited set of validators that are limited in number and have to be massive in their scale because the latency demands are so high. Whereas with Smart BCH, it's very much a kill your kings approach. In order to be, there is no proof of stake always in power type of dynamic in Smart BCH. If you are not mining on the BCH network, you will lose your ability to run a validator. So it's proof of work in every sense of the constantly trying to improve and increase the security you're providing to the BCH main chain. And that's also what it ties back to the BCH main chain, which I think is very important. But I think these differences in scalability are very interesting from the perspective of someone who's trying to build on Smart BCH and picking a new ecosystem to build on, because obviously ETH is way too expensive. And from that perspective, Smart BCH has the longest horizon approach, because they're not taking the short-sighted Ethereum approach, which is probably going to be good for the ETH price, but bad for the overall adoption and probably will alienate people. And they're not taking these super centralized approaches. So the centralized approaches will harm adoption with exchanges. If you're an exchange that isn't Binance, it's a difficult proposition to just integrate BSC and sort of tip the hat to your competition.
Yeah, the way that validators are selected is absolutely crucial when we look at the long-term economics of the projects, which is why I was actually really happy about, having this sidechain approach and being able to vote on validators. And that way, people in the community, technically might be able to become a validator, and miners definitely will. And sometimes miners will want, certain people to be running infrastructure, and they can choose to if they have those kinds of dynamics with people. But anybody can kind of come in and start mining and start voting for new validators. And it's not a whoever gets there first before the price pumps owns the network, or ownership by exchange, which is also a really real fear. If you have your validators stacked by how much someone can stake, then a major exchange that starts staking for their customers all of a sudden has a really disproportionate amount of the staking pool and can make basically whatever decisions they want. And it can lead to cartel-like behavior between the exchanges and or other operators. And the mining situation really helps with that long term. Now, I'm actually kind of curious, Kui, the improvements that you made to Smart BCH, are these things that are portable to Ethereum today, or are there fundamental low-level differences that may be slightly different for Ethereum developers that are why you decided to take this as a completely new project rather than kind of work with some of the other EVM projects? Okay, the first question is the overall architecture is very different from Ethereum. And Ethereum, I believe some of the libraries can be ported to Ethereum, but Ethereum first change the paper. The yellow paper defined a lot of things. And can you hear me?
I'm sorry, if you could just repeat that last sentence, you broke up for just a minute.
Okay. Maybe my traffic is unstable. I mean that the yellow paper defined a lot of low-level semantics of Ethereum, and if Ethereum want to use some of our low-level libraries, they must change the semantics of the yellow paper. I think that it can be done, but it is very hard, very hard. So I don't think in the near future they will choose to use some smart BCH's approach, but we are quite open because they are because the more in libraries are open source, and we welcome anyone who want to use them to use them. But I don't think Ethereum will use them in the near future. And okay, would you please repeat your second question? I think that you covered it pretty well. I think that we can have John kind of move on. It was just kind of elaboration on the first one, I think.
Sure. So,
okay.
Oh, would someone else like to add something? Yep, let's go ahead.
Yeah. So I think the points that Mark and also Josh made about the miners actually choosing or voting on the validators is a very good one, and makes it very different from something like BSC. But I'm wondering how you think, Kui, how that compares to, for example, the merge mining that RSK employs, where actually the miners of BTC are also validating transactions on RSK through merge mining.
Okay. The network is still a little bit unstable. I repeat your question. You just want to know what's the difference from the other merged mining projects, such as RSK or Vcash or something like that, right?
Yeah. So what the consequences would be of, like with Smart BCH, the miners choose validators and then those validators use proof of stake, versus something like RSK where the miners themselves use merge mining.
Yes, I think the other merged mining projects are actually they are still POW, and they just when you try to use hash conflict to produce a valid BTC block, you are also trying to produce an RSK block. So this is a very tight process. And in our approach, I hesitate to call it merge mining. It's just electrician based on the Coinbase transactions. So the block to block, in the block to block level, you can look at the consensus algorithm as a pure POS algorithm. So we use the Tendermint library, which means we can have per block finalization and a very fast block interval. So you can name it. You can see it as something like a EOS. It has epoch, and EOS, something like EOS. You have epochs, and you elect the validators or the supernodes in one epoch, and they take on their duty for another epoch. And in the epoch, the POW has no effect on the validator side. It just decided the next epoch. So this is a different approach. We choose this approach is that actually I think POW is not a good consensus algorithm for the block to block basis. It's just good for the long run, because in the long run it is open and it is fair, and it can welcome new joiners. So we think in the long run POW has its advantage, but in the short run POS has its advantage. So we decide this hybrid scheme for consensus algorithm.
Well, so that's interesting. So is it correct? Like, is it accurate to say that you're basically on the short term for every epoch you're sacrificing some decentralization for more performance, and then in the long run you still have the decentralization of POW?
Yes.
Interesting. Thank you.
All right.
Very good. So before we move on, I would just like to ask, given what's already been said, are there any other specific aspects of this implementation, or generally of an implementation of something like this, that we should know that are valuable? What I guess maybe the question is, what would a bad implementation of this look like, maybe? And if there's nothing else, we can move on. But I do want to just make sure before we keep going.
I want to call out one other really nice advantage of this is that in Ethereum, because of the way gas works and the way the block interval works, it doesn't really perform very well as a cache. It doesn't really provide any kind of instantaneous response. There's failure modes, there are high fees, and there isn't a good protection of the cache experience within an Ethereum environment. Now, that's not their goal of their project. They want to do financial services and those types of things. But that's where Smart BCH really shines, is that even if Smart BCH becomes tremendously popular, and even if the fees started to go up, at the end of the day, the cache use case is completely unaffected. The cache use case of BCH being able to be used all over the world with cheap fees, completely unaffected. And so that's the type of projects that I really like to welcome, is there really isn't a disaster scenario for the things that I think the community deems is so important, which is making sure that peer-to-peer cash for the world is something that is achievable. And being able to piggyback on the same token that's doing peer-to-peer cash and being able to use it within a DeFi environment is something that Ethereum can't offer. Technically can't offer, and is something that we might be able to have very real in the next couple of months because of Smart BCH.
Yeah,
that's exciting. Thank you. Oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I think that's really valuable. Like, there's huge advantages to the UTXO approach of Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, namely, like, it's just way simpler, and it does have huge advantages for just very simple payments. And there's huge advantages, obviously, to the ETH approach and the DeFi approach, and having these on separate networks, separate blockchains, but with the same token and the same proof of work underpinning it all. It's incredible.
Very good, thank you. So sort of there, we did cover, not just the properties of a good solution, but also a lot of how that applies to Smart BCH. So let's move on then to a recognition of costs. Now, specifically because this doesn't require consensus changes, ideally the costs for some people will be lower, but I'm sure that people will have some thoughts on other potential costs of implementing this, even though it requires no permission. Kui, is this something that you've thought of? Are there any potential downsides you see to the implementation of Smart BCH for the rest of the Bitcoin Cash ecosystem?
Currently, I guess there is no downside because we only take a very tiny output from the Coinbase transaction. It's about less than 100 bytes, so it does not take anything at all. And the technical view, maybe some economics. There will be maybe some economic issues because if we must transfer a lot of BCH from the mainnet to the smart BCH sidechain through a bridge, and we will have a lot of things to worry about the bridge. Is it secure? Is it trusted? Or can we trust it? Will they take the coins away? Will they take the coins away? A lot of things to worry about, and this may be. And if there are some accident in the cross-chain bridge, I think there will be some.
Hey, Kui,
did we lose audio or did we lose video? Oh yeah, looks like both. Hey, Kui, sorry if you can hear me. You've broken up, so
okay.
Yeah. All right. Okay, it looks like you're back now. So maybe 10 seconds ago or so you broke up.
Okay. I just said that maybe the most important thing for Smart BCH is we must design the cross-chain bridge secure enough and decentralized enough. You know that the best thing, if the code is not perfect on Smart BCH, the largest damage is the damage itself, right? But if we damage the coins transferred from the mainnet to the Smart BCH, that will be a big issue. So in the next month, I will put a lot of effort and communication to the cross-chain bridge design and talk with the society, with the community, to how can we organize such a cross-chain bridge. Okay.
Yeah, the cross-chain.
Actually, I think. Yeah. Yes. Actually, I think in the near future, the traffic on the Smart BCH would not be as high as the mainnet. I think it may rise, but it will rise in the long run. So we do not worry about the volume of the Smart BCH in the near future. Maybe in the future, maybe in the long future. Okay, I finished.
Yeah, no, the cross-chain bridge is something that is absolutely important in how that's developed. The one thing I have noticed in talking to other developers, though, is that this is something that everybody really kind of agrees on in the smart contract space within BCH, is trying to figure out a nice way to be able to do these bridges and atomic swaps and being able to have better transaction features in BCH to allow this type of functionality. So I think you have
actually,
a lot
Josh,
of
if I may interrupt you there,
yeah.
Could I ask you to just give us a really quick overview of what we're talking about, this bridge? Because the idea, so far I'm guessing a lot of people think, okay, there's this tool that should give us, it's a side chain and it should give us smart contracts on Bitcoin Cash. So what do we actually need to do?
So you need some way to send BCH somewhere and guarantee that BCH can't move and is frozen effectively. And it needs to magically be unfrozen in the Smart BCH land so that I can use it there. And then I need some way to get from Smart BCH land and unlock coins on the other side on mainnet and get them back as regular BCH in a way that doesn't require a centralized third party to help with the facilitation of that trade. Now, there are a lot of different techniques to do that. And in the beginning, it might be a trusted relationship with a set of people, and you kind of choose who you're going to work with. But within the community, there's a lot of support for figuring out how we can use smart contracts to implement these types of interchain locks. And I think that for the most part, developers are in agreement that a solution for that problem is something that is important. Now, what the details of that are, I don't know of any specific specs or chips or anything like that that talk about that integration. But what I'm hoping is that conversation starts to happen in a real way now. Now that we have a test net, now that we're seeing that this functionality is all working, I think that there can be a closer relationship between the Smart BCH project and some of the people working within the scripting environment to see what we really need to be able to do this in a trustless way, where I don't have to trust anyone and it just works, and we don't have to worry about the decentralized aspect of what we're doing.
Thank you for giving us that overview. So I guess it's worth pointing out and then asking for anyone to correct me if this isn't the case. So Smart Bitcoin Cash obviously has these capabilities, basically the same as Ethereum, but because we also need to lock up, quote unquote, lock up the Bitcoin Cash so that it doesn't move until the other chain allows it to move again. For that to happen, Bitcoin Cash itself may need new features, or maybe we just need to figure something out given our current smart contract capabilities. But that is the problem you're talking about there?
That's exactly the problem. Is like, we may be able to do it with existing script. It may be possible. I'm not actually not the scripting wizard on. I think Rosco and some of these other people on the panel have a better understanding of where we're at for functionality like that. But it's something that we have discussed, and I think that solutions are definitely something that can happen, even if they're not 100% possible today, but we'll know soon as people start looking into this more closely.
And I'll just give the tokenomics or pumpamentals reason for why this is important, which is Smart BCH is going to have a lot of ecosystem build out that has staking opportunities for people with BCH to come and put their BCH to work in lending protocols and decentralized trading protocols, and they'll be able to start earning yield on their BCH. When they're earning that yield, it is useful and it'll be better if they don't have to trust decentralized authority. So, and then the second reason is Smart BCH, half of the fees will go to the node operators, the miners, that are running validators, and then half of the fees will actually go to burning BCH. So it's important that those burns get reflected on the main chain as well, because at scale, this could result in, this could even result in BCH becoming a deflationary currency. So right now, BCH has still a very low inflation rate. It's known it's only ever going to be 21 million, but this could result in lots of BCH being destroyed every year from gas fees. So it's important that those burns be bidirectional and happen on both chains.
Yes, the burning process is very important. We must ensure the cross-chain gateway keepers must burn the same amount on the mainnet to reflect the gas fee burning on the Smart BCH.
Can you go into a little bit more why you think the burn is necessary? I know there are some reasons, because I know that there are some people on kind of both sides of the argument of whether or not a burn is a good idea. I'm just curious as to your thoughts about it.
Burning is very common nowadays in the blockchain world. You know that a lot of platform coins, such as BNB and HT, they always burn some platform tokens when they get some income. Okay, since the BCH is a chain which can benefit all the BCH holders. So I think what it earned should pay back to all the BCH holders. And burning is such a tool which can benefit every BCH holder. So it is simple and it has worked on many smart chains. So we can borrow this idea. The burning is not a new idea, and it has worked well on many platform coins, and it will work fine on the Ethereum. So I think borrowing it is necessary for Smart BCH.
Thank you.
So one thing you mentioned as well was that there was the cost of, the proof of work voting is added to the Coinbase transaction op returns, right? And
yeah, it will.
So you mentioned that that's a small cost because the required op return is under 100 bytes. So when I heard that, I thought, well, it does use up some of the available op return space. So let's say there are other protocols that also require Coinbase transactions to use some op return statements. Then that likely wouldn't be possible because they're already used up by Smart BCH. Is there something like, do you have any ideas about that?
Sorry, my network is not stable again. Can you repeat your last sentence?
Yeah. So the idea is that if Smart BCH is using op return statements in the Coinbase transaction, then no other protocol can also use op return statements in the Coinbase transaction for their protocol. So you're basically using that up. Is there anything? Yeah.
No. This is not a problem because there will be multiple outputs to the earning transaction, including the Coinbase transaction, and each transaction we can have a OP return, OP code, right? Because after this fork, we will allow multiple outputs have OP return. So I don't think it will be a problem.
So
I see.
It does take some of the data carrier size. So we're allowing for multiple op returns, but at 100 bytes, that leaves like 120 bytes or so left for other protocols, which is enough for one that uses the same amount of space as Smart BCH today. I have seen a lot of conversations with devs. We wanted to be careful for the upgrade and just open up the ability to have multiple op returns, but not change the data carrier size. But there has already been conversations about the data carrier size as well. So I agree with the concern. I'm more of the boat that, like, I don't want massive data carrier size, like op returns. I'm not thinking of megabytes, but I think a kilobyte sized op return has a lot of advantages. And I think that, there's a conversation to be had as more protocols are using op return as to what we want to do. We can even increase op return data carrier size only for Coinbase transactions, if that's something that absolutely would need to happen. So there is some flexibility on how that can roll out, but it's a great point because I didn't even think about that limitation until you brought it up.
And I think the point that Kui just brought up about the fact that it doesn't have to be the op return for the first transaction inside the Coinbase.
Not the first one. Any output is okay for us.
And so what I am wondering then is how, because the Coinbase transaction is one single transaction. So if you're saying that it can be a different transaction within the same block, how is that enforced? Because how do you know that one of the, do you have to have like another transaction to the same output as or to the same address as the miner's output, or how do you see that?
Yes, I just the implementation of the staking logic just scans every BCH block and find out the Coinbase transaction. It only scans the Coinbase transaction and see if this transaction votes for a validator. it does not take other transactions into account.
All right. I thought you said earlier that it would, but no, yeah. So then the point stands, and I think what Josh mentioned is very accurate. That I think there's a lot of work being done already to support multiple up returns or to increase the data carrier size. So that should mitigate the concern.
Yeah, because as right now, SLP requires op return index 0. And SLP, some of those transactions take a majority of the op return space. And so in order for us to even support additional protocols other than SLP and be able to integrate SLP more in the scripting stack, the data carrier size would need to be adjusted for that. Now, I don't know if that's what the community wants, but if they did, they would need to change the data carrier size.
Very good. Well, then that might be a good point to move on unless someone has something else to add there. All right. So let's then talk a little bit about who the stakeholders are in the activation of Smart BCH. And so here, I guess it becomes a bit of a question of really who is affected by this, and this might be more of an opportunity to point out who is not affected by this than really who, or at least an equally good opportunity to point out who's not affected by it as it is an opportunity to point out who is affected by it. So Kui, could you tell us, who is it that has to think about Smart BCH once it comes out? Who are the people that are going to have to update or need to update or need to learn something new or change their software? Who will have to do something once Smart BCH is working?
Okay, I think the most affected party is the mining pools, because they have the burden to elect the proper nodes for Smart BCH, and they can get and they have the duty and they have more opportunity to earn the gas fee on the Smart BCH. So I think the mining pools must figure out who is the validators they want to support, or if they want to run a validator themselves, and they must change their software a little bit to include the specific electing output to their Coinbase transaction. And I think every BCH holder may be affected by Smart BCH because they have. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes, because they have another network to put coins on. You know that they have mainly Lend, Lend-F or RV or other DeFi applications clone will be ported to the Smart BCH. You can put your coins in a smart contract and earn some interest from it. That is very different from you must just hold your coins on the mainnet. On the Smart BCH, you can put your coins in a smart contract and do something from it. But if you are not interested in such applications, I know a lot of people they are afraid of smart contracts. I know a lot of my friends are afraid of smart contract because smart contracts may be buggy, and even the contract from some expert, they still have some problems, and your assets may be stolen by some scientist on the chain. So a lot of people are afraid of smart contracts. So I know for those people, I can't understand them because I have a lot of friends they are afraid of the contract. I think for those people, they can perfectly keep their coins on the mainnet and wait for a mature and time-proven solutions on the Smart BCH strategy emerge, and they can choose a different way to put their assets. But I think it will be a long time before the applications get mature and get proven on the Smart BCH. So in the near future, I think maybe only the mining pools is affected by Smart BCH.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Would anyone else like to add or comment on that?
No, I think he's
Okay.
absolutely.
Actually, I have a question for Mark.
Yep.
So lady first, okay. Because I see that Roger Ver mentioned many times about that new kind of stablecoin from CoinFLEX that can kind of yield interest, while also have stable USD return to you. I wonder, Mark, are you considering to transit that kind of stablecoin onto Smart BCH?
Yeah, so speaking selfishly for a bit, one of the reasons why CoinFLEX is so excited about Smart BCH is because USDC really got its lead over the other coins by being early into the Ethereum DeFi ecosystem. And FlexUSD has been a pretty cool stablecoin because people are earning interest on it. And so basically, for everyone who doesn't know, FlexUSD is a stablecoin. It's always worth $1, but also has a rebase function every 8 hours where it pays out interest. And so one of the reasons why we as a company are really motivated to help Smart BCH is because we want FlexUSD to be the main stablecoin or the dominant stablecoin on Smart BCH. And then everyone who's using Smart BCH for DeFi will have a higher rate of return, because on top of whatever they're doing in Smart BCH's DeFi land, they'll also be making returns from FlexUSD. So we think it's great for DeFi users of Smart BCH, and it's also great for us because we get to grow the supply of our stablecoin. So that's one of the reasons why CoinFLEX is really motivated. FlexUSD is going to be on Smart BCH day one. It'll be very easy to move it between ETH and Smart BCH and SLP on the BCH mainnet. So we'll make that really, really simple, really, really easy to do, unlimited size and very low fees. And yeah, we want projects to be using FlexUSD as a stablecoin, purely for the motivation of, if they're using it as a stablecoin, their users will make more money. So yeah, thanks for the question.
So one thing you mentioned about the miners being most affected by the changes a bit earlier. So to hop onto that, is there some sort of minimum or maximum set of validators that has to be chosen? So like
no.
what happens if there's not enough miners voting for validators?
Okay. The minimum validator and the maximum validator count is a critical parameter, and we definitely will discuss with the community in the next months. And personally, I know the mining pools people, so I have personally discussed with them about Smart BCH, and they all promised to involve in the validator election. So I don't think it will such a scenario that no one wants to elect the Smart BCH validator. And you know that the major BCH mining pools are in China, and they are not so what to say. They are not so involved in the BCH developer of other issues. They do not know a lot of people in the ecosystem. So so I would like to be a bride to introduce anyone who want to contribute to the Smart BCH. And if you want to know if you want to be a validator, anyone, if you want to be a validator, but you have no channel to discuss it with the mining pools, I can be the bridge to introduce you to the mining pools and make sure the mining pools will vote for you.
You can consider me in on
I do think.
I want to run a
Yeah,
validator.
of course.
I definitely want to run a validator.
I definitely want the validator. Post a lot of people.
Sorry to interrupt you, Kui. You just broke up. Could you repeat the? Sorry to interrupt, Kui. Could you repeat that sentence? I'm afraid you broke up.
I definitely want the validators come from all around the world, but actually all the mining pools are in China. They do not know a lot of people all around the world. So I'd like to introduce the people to them and make sure they vote for the critical parties of the BCH ecosystem.
Well, I know a lot of people here that would love to run validators, so I don't think you're going to have a problem. It's how we get those miners to vote for our validators is going to be the most the hard part of that equation. So any introductions you have would be appreciated.
So then
you can.
Nice. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead if you want to.
You can contact me directly. And
Wait,
all right.
Do you think mining pools will run farming services for some of the DeFi apps in the Smart BCH ecosystem? Because I think BTC BCH miners have a natural incentive for this ecosystem to succeed. Even if they don't hold any BCH, they have an incentive for it to succeed because of the increased fees on the gas that they have the rights to claim effectively. So do you think some of these mining pools will run like farming as a service projects for the miners to take their Bitcoin or their BCH or USDT or something and farm it into the ecosystem?
Actually, many miners or many mining pools, actually they have different business. If you know VRBTC, they are also the VRBTC group also run a exchange, and they have different kinds of business. And the pull-in mining pool, they have other business, and they run farms on the Ethereum. So maybe the correct question is that the people who is running a mining pool will also run the business of DeFi farming. I think the answer is yes, because both of the business can make money. Why not? But the mining pool itself, I believe, maybe not. They for different business, they will use different brand and maybe different websites. But the people, the same group of people will run the businesses both. Will run both business.
Well, from there, I think for time's sake, and because that's a pretty good place, let's take a couple of questions we've gotten from YouTube. Now, many of them have been addressed, but I'm going to scan through them and find any that haven't been touched on. A good one to start with, I think, is a question. Do you think that Smart BCH helps Bitcoin Cash reach its goal of being peer-to-peer electronic cash for the world? And if so, how does it help the main chain reach that goal with its token?
Currently, when we talk about the token for the world, it's no longer the old style money. Okay, nowadays everyone thinks that blockchain is very smart money or programmable money. Support programmable money. So if BCH cannot be a programmable money, I don't think it can serve all the different demands from the world. So I do think this is a very important part which Smart BCH can provide to the BCH ecosystem. It provides rich programmabilities, so such that we can do a lot of things with the BCH.
Thanks very much. And would anyone else like to comment on that?
I think that there's an inverse that can happen with smart contract developers that are used to working within Ethereum, playing around with tools like Smart BCH and realizing some of the benefits of the Smart BCH platform, but more importantly, then being able to go and increase the overall liquidity of BCH as there are more people that are using it day in and day out. And they may want to see what BCH is about, more likely to test BCH if they are playing around with Smart BCH and found cool applications. And then someone tells them, oh, well, you can also use this as cash. Here, hit these buttons on your wallet. It works like cash. And then they see the cash use case as well. And they go, wait, but my Ethereum can't do cash mode. There's no cash mode for Ethereum. There's no like instant transaction mode for me. And that might be a way to get more people involved. But more importantly, we want to have worldwide money that allows for a new financial institution that anyone can participate. The truth is that the ETH fees are too high for everyone to participate right now. So being able to be on a large block network where people can get the same types of services and loans and advanced EVM-based smart contract features for pennies instead of dollars opens up this functionality to the world in a way that really hasn't happened yet. And we're in this bubble where people are willing to pay $10 just to like authorize something and not even move money yet, much less move the tokens or unstake their tokens. I've seen fees upwards of $180, just like, oh, I want to unstake some tokens. And it's like, wow, this is just not usable by the world. And so Smart BCH opens up the smart contracts to people that have not been able to use them before. And it opens up a door to a fast transaction currency that they may not have been exposed to before. And so I see it just as a win to get that additional liquidity and that additional, eyeballs on these projects.
Great. I think maybe just one more question then. Which there might be more to elaborate on.
Josh,
but
actually, I have.
City, did we lose you? She was looking so passionate.
Yeah, she was ready to go.
She was like, I got a question.
Such a shame.
All right. Well, if she pops back in, we can definitely give her a shot. But I'll just keep going for now. So I think not many people are aware of really where Smart BCH is as far as, the state of the project. Now, some people have heard that the testnet recently launched. Could you tell us with whatever ballpark you can give us, do you think or when is Mainnet planned to be launched? Are there chances of delays? And then also, is there anything already being built, using the testnet that's worth mentioning? So if you want to just start with just plans for mainnet launch and schedule, that would be great.
Okay, technically we have all the code finished for the mainnet. But we still need to test it. But what I'm not sure is about the mining pool spot and the validators. The validator's election and the cross-chain gateway, how to select the parties to join the cross-chain gateway. That is not, these things are not totally technical, and we must communicate with the people, and it may take longer than we expected. That is not totally controlled by technical things. So maybe there will be some delay, but we'll try my best to bring the mainnet to you in the next month. In this month, it's already been in May.
A quick question about the testnet. So I noticed that the testnet launched but I didn't see documentation on how to join the testnet. I saw a single node. I saw testnet exists. Did not see a doc on joining the testnet.
Okay, so sorry. I must write some document about join the testnet. Yes, you can compile a binary and configure some parameters and use this binary to join the testnet. It can be done. We were in a hurry, so we didn't finish the document yet.
No worries. I just want to provide the Docker and Kubernetes stuff so that people can spin up testnet nodes with one command. And that way they can join the testnet and have everything automated and get it so that it's easier for us to be bringing up the test infrastructure. So just let me know when the docs are out. I know it's super early.
Okay.
I mean, 0.12. So.
Good deal. And then the
Okay.
second half to that question was, do you know, or are there any even proofs of concept being run on testnet already, or is it too early for anything like that?
We've got an instance of a DEX running and FlexUSD and another token running as well. I think our DEX is like trading Flex against FlexUSD. I don't think we've made that public though, so I'll see what we can do to try to get that public in the next day or two. But I don't know if I don't think it's public.
Awesome, thank you.
Is that like a Uniswap fork DEX or something?
Yeah,
else?
exactly. Just a super simple
Nice.
Unity 2. Yeah.
Oh, I want to ask Josh a
Sure,
question. Because you work as one of the world's largest crypto exchange, so I wonder, you must know a lot of blockchain projects. I'm kind of curious, are you already talking with some of them and convincing them to build on Smart BCH?
So you're muted, sorry. Hey, Josh.
Oh.
You're muted.
Josh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. So no, at Coinbase, we evaluate everything. This is really early. We usually evaluate stuff when it's at mainnet, but it's a different department. So like I can bring up, oh, here are all these awesome currencies. Here are the people you should talk to about those currencies. But then there's an entire process that is unbeknownst to me on how they get to figure out what that gets added to the exchanges. But what I can say is that BCH is on a lot of exchanges. It's well traded. If a smart contract platform on BCH gains a lot of traction, then there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on that from the exchange community to make sure that they can support the popular assets on those EVM style blockchains. And that since the tooling is so similar, at least from the API perspective, that also makes some of those integrations a little bit easier for the larger exchanges as well. But I can't speak to any specifics as I don't control anything that gets added there. I just build stuff.
Very good.
Nice.
Thank you. Well, I think that is a good place for us to wrap up. So thank you all very much for participating in this discussion. Thanks everyone who tuned in for watching and everyone on YouTube. Be sure to keep up with us there. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter. If you have a topic that you think should be discussed, the place to start is bitcoincashresearch.org. Thanks to them for the work they do running that platform. And finally, thanks to all the folks behind the scene who made this meeting possible. You don't see their faces, but they've done a whole lot of work and they're much appreciated. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.